you have any questions, kind of raise your hand and yell because I can hardly see you. But stand up, yell your questions. We also have Justin Wardell, County Executive there in the middle. Ryan Bundy and Matt Perlin are also around somewhere too. We got cards that you can hand. You can write some questions down if you bashful, you don't want to ask any questions by standing up. Or you can tweet them too. We're social media connected here at ILC. So if not tonight, check out our Twitter site and other social media sites. Tonight's site is at ILC Lighting, so check it out as well. After this thing is over, we're going to have the product demos of various Strand products, Telecom products, and Vari Lite products, and also a raffle of some special Vari Lite swag. So that's something you should stick around for as well. So we're going to kick things off right now. Once again, just a discussion about how we all work together. So I'm going to kick it off with Bob Peterson right here. We got some pre-arranged questions, but these guys will be playing off each other, so we have a nice lively discussion. So, question number one, Bob, what's your favorite color? No. Leave 180. That's the correct answer. All right, let's just talk about what you do and how you start the whole process off, at least from our perspective. How do you get hired and who hires you?
I have kind of two areas where I work. I feel involved in concert touring. I've been involved in sneakers lighting for 37 years. It's a long time. And do that stuff periodically. But I've been more in television probably the last 15 years or so. In music on TV. And how I get those shows is producers will call. Usually from the network like MTV or CMT, or if it's on ABC or one of the bigger networks, you'll have a independent producer that will call and ask about availability and see if we're involved in the show. It becomes really kind of a word of mouth thing. Unfortunately, it's really hard to break into, but once you're in there, then you're trusted to do it. I got involved because I was secondhand to Alan Grant for 5 or 6 years working on business operations, and then all the producers. I just get called up.
So how do you deal with manufacturers, Brad's perspective, as well as Terry? How do they get involved in the process, whether before you get hired or after you get the show? And if you can, get closer to the microphone so the guys can hear it.
Vari Lite has always been the best, at least my experience, in terms of early on welcoming feedback from us out. Doing spent a lot of time with Scott Dallas and stuff, development of products like DL 1000, DL 500, DL 6, and the DL 3000. Not only do they want the feedback, but they know if you're involved, you're immediately
okay. Terry, when you're dealing with lighting designers, you get the show. Hopefully, you always get the show. But how does ILC and lighting shops in general work with lighting designers and manufacturers to put these shows together?
I'll take that. How to be a lighting designer for 200? It's a bit of a different process with each designer or each design firm that we work with. Our involvement hopefully starts a fairly early phase with them as far as, and what I mean about that is touring, some touring people here obviously versus something that's more corporate orientated, and basically what we can provide and what the lighting designers are looking to accept for possible substitution. Let's say if we can't provide it, but we're the vendor of choice. So we start that dialogue pretty early on. Obviously, from the sales guys that are in the room, they come up with the numbers and send it down to the production department, and we fix it. We're introduced at that point to somebody like Bob or a lighting designer, and then we take it more from a technical standpoint from there. Hopefully their paperwork and their plots are sent to us, and you know, back and forth continues until we get to the show floor. Put it up in the air. We have Vari Lite products there that work.
Now, there's shows that, due to their size and complexity, the lighting design is not needed. 4 lights, a podium, or whatever. But how do you deal with the client, or how do we deal with the client from an ILC perspective when a lighting designer should be in the mix, but they're refusing to incur that cost to do one?
Sales question. Put me out there.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah. Well, 4 lights. I mean, I don't think Bob or anybody else is going to answer the phone if I call them up. Maybe they would, but I'm sure they're doing bigger and better things. You look at each project, and we're certainly not trying to be a design company, but I think in some instances, in something like that, when it's pretty simple to lock in, there's only so many variables you can do with, a limited amount of fixtures. We'll take care of it, or there are been communication board requirements, stuff like that out. Of course, the sales guys talking to the client, going, look, we've got a great partnership with several designers, several design companies are about getting their involvement, putting them into play early on. So it's a good deal.
The lighting designers in my day came from the shops. So I mean, I didn't have young kids who died and have the chance to go.
Absolutely, yeah. And a bunch of old designers that wouldn't mind doing it again.
Don't have to get specific on this, and look at the brand a little bit, but we're talking about lighting designers. I know we have some people that put together shows, produce shows in the audience. So, what is the cost for lighting design, or how? I'm trying to phrase a good question here without getting too specific. But how do you determine costs, or what are the various levels and types of shows where lighting design comes into play? That question makes sense to you from a producer asking that question.
Well, I try to find out a budget right away in the conversation with anybody that hires me. It saves a lot of time. You're not guessing. You're not building different scenarios that they can choose from. I'm really, really pressed for a budget from a producer. And if the producer's ignorant as to the true cost of things, I'll take the time to walk them through all the realities of what they have to face. Even draw up a sheet that shows what the different costs are, including labor, the gear, and support people that you need. It's really a wide range of the kind of money that you make. A massive network project can pay $50,000 for one show, and a little comedy shoot can pay $5,000. So it's a broad range of what kind of going you can do.
All right, Brad's been sitting here not saying anything, so let's wake him up a little bit. So
I was waiting for the tweet.
Oh, let's see. Oh, I got a question. How about that? So we're going to start talking a little bit about equipment, development, and manufacturing, obviously. How do you work with lighting designers like Bob and lighting shops and lighting technicians like Terry and ILC? How does all that come together?
The first thing, I guess, starts with really the lighting designers. And the end users, everyone who uses the products. It's very important that as a manufacturer that we talk to the actual users of the customers. Because trying to design and make new lights in a vacuum is not the best way to do it. It's important that we build the tools that you guys want and that you need. And the only way to do that is to go out to different events, different shows, different trade shows, things like this, and talk to the designers and talk to the end users who use the products daily to find out what you need. And we take every bit of input that we get and factor that all in for new designs. Because, for example, if I talk to someone who tells me, oh, every time I lift this light, it hurts my hand, that's important feedback that will help the technicians. They'll be happier when they use the light. Or talk to a designer who says he really needs a light that has a certain zoom range. And, of course, every designer has different needs that they want. And it becomes a balance of, okay, how many of those things can you fit into a light and suit everybody at the same time? Then on top of that, you have to think from the rental department's point of view, of the lighting companies, what is it they're looking for? And that usually comes back down to price. So you have to take all these great features that everybody wants and have a target price that you think the market will bear for that light, and find the happy medium there. And from there, then you can start to build the light.
Terry, field service friendliness, this is something you brought up in preparing these questions on. How important is that, whether it's a concert tour, a corporate show, or even a special events, and how do you feel, just to put manufacturers on the spot, how do you feel that they respond to those recommendations?
Yeah, it is a big factor, obviously, especially when you're out on something that is a longer run where you're basically having to put, if you have spares, you're putting them into the show, and you're having basically field service that spare, so it becomes ready to get put back in action. And the quicker you can do that, obviously the better. The less complicated it is, the less of a service kit that you need to take on the road for you to do triage while you're out there. I think Vari Lite's done a pretty good job of addressing that. As far as field services is concerned, compared to some other manufacturers. Boy, I'm really giving you a shot. For an ME or an L2 or anything like that out in the field, it's a huge factor.
I would say that over the last probably 7 to 10 years, the industry has grown to a point of not just building these lights for the designers and to get out there, but building them for the technicians. And listening to the technicians became secondary, has now become more important, because at first it was like, well, let's just build what the designers want. And then everyone realized over time, wait, we have to listen to the technicians, what they want. So now you'll find lots of lights from all the manufacturers are a little more serviceable. People build things with bulkheads, easy slide out, etc. Connectors.
Yeah, very modular. You can pick out color modules, pick out global modules. Whereas before you had to have like the tiny little Asian hands to get in there. And sorry, I wasn't trying to be gender biased or racist at all. But I mean, you really need to get sit yourself into a fixture, and it was very, very difficult.
Can I ask you a question? I would imagine that with this information from technicians that the manufacturers take into consideration, that translates to a benefit for you as well, based upon how fast serviceability, usability, and reliability for fixtures.
I'll just give a perfect example. I, as a designer, thought that the VL7 was a great light. Technicians didn't, and they want pretty quick in terms of it being out there and using it. It really is a factor that we hang lights in places we can't get to them many times. And if they're going to break, we have to put something that's a little bit dodgy up there. That's functioning, so it does play quite a bit. And I think Vari Lite, again, has been very responsive to these things, because the original designers of all this product line for road guys that were involved in traffic with it, and so they were all reality.
So you really, when you're designing something, you're putting fixtures in place, whether it's a show or installation, probably more so installation, but how much do you really care about what the technicians, what the difficulties are? How much percentage-wise, how much do you make that sort of your decision what fixture to use?
I think the choice of the inventory that I generally use is that I don't look at a particular show. I've already worked that into my thinking process. I will try something that's new always. We're all going to that's not happening. But you find out about the light or the different quickly.
Okay. So you're taking all this information, Brad, back to the shop, and Bob Peterson says this, that's great. Terry Heisler says this, that's great. How long does it take to gather those ideas and then turn it into one of the finished products that you see out here?
Well, typically from the start of a project, the end of a project, more recently it takes about a year, because this is a fast-turning market. Everybody wants new products all the time. All the competition's wanting new products, creating new products. So most fixtures take about a year of development. That's from day one starting to build and get the engineers working on it. But there's probably a whole year before that of gathering the data and analyzing and getting ready to write the specifications. So really it's more of a 2-year project, but the first year is studying and building the specifications. And then the second year is actually the engineering development.
And when you're producing these lights or have produced them and putting out specifications, how are lights currently measured? And do you agree with how they're measured, or how do you think they should be measured?
In terms of
Outputs,
Yeah.
or any important factor? What are the important factors from your perspective?
Yeah, that's the key thing, is how do people compare lighting products? If you have fixture A and fixture B from 2 different manufacturers, and you point them both at a white wall, put them in open white, what do they look like? Do they look the same? And does that matter, depending on how you're going to use it? Maybe they look totally different in open white, but in gobos they look the exact same, or vice versa. So there's a lot of different things to look at. And we actually have a whole series of things that we look at when we look at competitive products as a comparison. Because you have to look at, for example, if you put in a gobo, and you put in, let's say, something like this that's on the wall, is it truly black and white, or what's the contrast ratio between black and white? Some manufacturers do a great job of being truly black and white. Others, it's kind of grayish around the middle, or there's a lot of light coming through the middle, and so it's not as defined. And that will make a big difference in what you're projecting on stage. So we really try to study lots of different elements like that.
I don't think that the literature and the numbers mean anything to me. Never have. Maybe a Zoom language. Maybe I'll pay attention to that. But the only way to really tell is to go and shoot out and do something like this. Because the numbers just don't really translate to reality. Optics.
Now, when you're working with your clients, do they get into the minutia of the lights like that, or they just apparently trust that? And what I'm getting is,
they
like,
don't meddle with the exception of I got to have sharpness. I have sharpness. Give me some more sharpness.
now there's a couple of knockoffs out there.
I haven't seen.
They're out there. I don't know, how much does your client get involved with, like, say, like a shop says, I can give you this at this price, but they're very, well, let me try and rephrase this. They hear of a cheaper light, but you know it's not going to perform like the other light does, whether it's Sharpie knockoff or whatever. How do you deal with that with your
Touring
clients?
clients can get into that. There's a lot of that stuff going on maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago with the different touring vendors. Where this Mac product is exactly the same as a Vari Lite. This board is the same as a Virtuoso, and those kind of arguments are going on. You just try to educate them the best you can. And sometimes you draw a line and say, I don't want to work with that particular stuff.
The shop in the area, whatever shop that you want to use, while you're creating the design, so do you design around a vendor, or do you just kind of design, not even thinking about that initially?
That enters into your head pretty quickly, where the show is and what's going on. I love to call people up and say, hey, you know, do that. And it affects how I make some decisions. Like, I will not spec particular light, knowing that that vendor doesn't have one, but they've got an alternative that I'm okay with. I'll write it that way. That comes into play. But typically what happens is, for example, if I call Ryan here and give him a list of gear for a show, I'll specify what I want, and I'll also tell him what I'm willing to hear alternatives about. But I will very clearly line out what it is that I'm not going to budget in terms of that.
All right, Terry, I'm trying to play off of that point a little bit in terms of need this gear or there's substitution possibilities. How do we deal with that in ILC, you know, from the project management spec perspective?
Again, it's, you know, some of that happens upstairs. When it comes, sales is upstairs for those of you that don't know. By the time it gets downstairs to us, you know, being on the more of the technical side, some of that is already taken care of. Sometimes we'll play back and forth with sales and, you know, have the discussions with them as to why this is not a good alternative and your customer or client is not going to approve of this knock up because of, these reasons. The failure rate's really high, it's loud, it's clunky, whatever. If somebody like Bob is, like he said, certain things are very hard to substitute, such as a Sharpie, and this isn't a clay packing event, so I'll try not to go on about that. There's not many fixtures that are doing what that does as well as it does. I'm not sure if Chuck's still in the room, but and you can certainly wash fixtures or certain different kinds of lights are easier to substitute. So there's, like Bob said, there's a must-have and must-not-have. So it plays more off the sales guys than me. Sorry to dodge that question.
And it's important for the designers to know what the trade-off is for certain lights. I was just talking to someone here tonight who told me of a tour that had to change their wash lights from one brand to another brand because that's what the vendor said they would give them. And the designer didn't realize he was giving up a particular feature, that the previous wash light could go to a hard edge. And so now the tour is going to look completely different because the wash lights won't ever be able to go to that hard edge. And he didn't realize it, and he said, oh yeah, okay, I'll take those others. And so now the look of the show is going to suffer. So it really goes back to the designer to understand the differences between the lights, or for the rental shop to be clear, telling the difference between the lights.
How often does it happen, Bob, on show site? Obviously never with ILC, but walking in and not getting what you asked for.
It'll happen once, and then I won't go back.
Right.
And being around the country and using local vendors for different things, it's happening.
How many vendors do you work with on an annual basis that you do? How many shows do you do a year? And how many vendors are you working with on an annual basis?
I'd say there's about 30 television projects a year, and then touring work on top of that, which is separate, but maybe 5 or 6 vendors, not a lot.
Brad, bringing it back to the manufacturer perspective, you got guys running around, you got lighting designers, you got technicians and shops coming out. How do we get support best from you guys? Phone call, what tools do you put in place to make sure that everything works properly?
Well, of course, from the support standpoint, there is the 24-hour support hotline that every manufacturer hopefully has. You can call and connect with someone, and it's important that you know that number, and you know how to get a hold of the manufacturer. But the bigger question is, if you have a light and it is not working right, do you contact the manufacturer direct, or do you contact the rental company you got it from, or do you just contact your technicians that are there on site and let them fix it? We as the manufacturers want to ultimately hear and know, oh, you know what, these lights are having these failures on a period of time, even if it's the rental company telling us at the end of the month, hey, we had some shows out and they kept reporting this, that, or the other. It was happening quite often. Then we would know, okay, that's great. Obviously, you have to deal with it in the moment, so you have to fix it on site for the show site, but hopefully the information comes back around. And usually that's done more through the sales team going and talking to the customers, the different rental companies, saying, how's this product been working for you? What have you been seeing? And that's where we gather that data. Otherwise, there's technicians on site who might call the manufacturer of support to get the detailed information. What is the process to change out this belt or something if they were not aware already? And we make that available, of course, online and again through direct phone calls.
So Terry, obviously we carry many different product lines here at ILC. Sometimes we get a situation where you have 2 lights that are relatively the same or practically the same, if you will. In those cases, all things being equal, support, how much does that play into what we do here at ILC, making a selection of purchasing equipment and making it available to our clients?
Yeah, it's a big factor, obviously, in the QC that we do, whether it's consoles or fixtures or pretty much anything we send out the door. Knowing that we have the product support behind it, or constant and current, whether it's software updates and whatever, that we're in the current stream of communication from manufacturer to us, so that what is expected on the show site we're delivering.
Yeah, I would say that's another key thing that designers and users can do is sign up for newsletters or for news alerts or support alerts, whatever, however it's listed from different manufacturers, so you get the information so you know when there's new software releases. Pretty much everybody has an email list you can sign up for and be told, hey, there's new software that gives you this feature now. A good example of the VLX3 wash light, there was new software for it that allowed it about 6-8 months ago that allowed you to control each individual cell separately. Or, for example, the DL880, there was new software 2 months ago that lets you put it in a mode to run the dimmers faster or the colors faster. And if you've been using the product on the show and you weren't aware that that had come out, then you're not going to know that those changes have occurred, and you might not gain the new features that could be useful to you. So it's very good if everybody signs up for those types of alerts. And then the designers can ask the rental shop and say, I want this product, but I want to make sure they're all updated to the current software.
How often is the Vari Lite name disparaged due to a shop or somebody not knowing what they're doing with it? Do you come across that a lot? You know, they're not reading the instruction manual, they don't have the right profile set up, and then instead of their fault, it's the brand name's fault or the particular fixture's fault. How often does that happen?
It happens occasionally, but I wouldn't say it happens exceedingly amount of times.
Yeah, I was hoping for a 20-minute discussion on that one. Okay.
I don't have a lot of
Can you expand on that? No, I'm kidding. All right, I'm going to start, bigger picture on this one. We'll start with Bob on this one. Brief description about how you started in the industry, how you would recommend for people to make a career in the lighting industry.
I graduated high school. I was a National Merit Scholar, and had an opportunity to go on the road with KISS the summer after I graduated high school. I did that, and Bob Seger was the opening act, and nobody wanted to run his lights, so I did. So 37 years later. Basically, I started 3 years earlier in the garage of Mr. Dom Carone, who's Robert Carone's dad, at Upstaging, and participated in building and development of that company for many years. So I did it just by jumping in and doing it. I still think there is a pretty good avenue of getting involved with a good vendor like ILC. And getting out and learning the shop and then doing shows is a great way to get into it. Now the technology is advanced so far beyond what we had when I started that getting formal training and maybe even a college education on some of those aspects is a good thing to do as well. But I don't think you need it in order to be.
I know Terry's story to a certain degree. We'll get to that in a second, but Brad, since you're in a vastly different sector of business, how did you start? What recommendations do you have from your perspective?
Well, I pretty much started in high school as well, many years ago. And right away, I was really into theater, did a lot of theatrical things. And out of high school, actually in high school and out of high school, I worked in a theater in Dallas, working there as a technical director and as a lighting designer and technician, and freelancing as much as I could to get my hands on other gear that we didn't have, working in local road shows and whatnot. From there, I progressed into learning this great new thing that was called automated lighting programming. And these consoles actually were push buttons first, and then they became consoles. And kind of just started right away learning the program and took that on as something new and exciting. And continued with that. So then I got offered a position with High-End Systems 16 years ago in their programming department. This is back when manufacturers actually had their own separate programming department so we would go out and program shows, because there wasn't like today where there's many programmers all over the world. There were just a few of us that really knew how to program automated lights. So we worked for the manufacturer, and people would call us to go out and program their shows and their tours. And I did that for many years. Always thought it would be 5 years, but it was more like 8, 9, 10. And I left for a little while, and then they asked me to come back more in a product management role, working on consoles and also for fixtures. So that's where I kind of then changed roles more into the product management and learned to specify products, continue to be an industry expert, if you will, to learn about all the products for the company I work for and for all the competition, and understanding the needs of the marketplace and figuring out what to do with new products and listening to customers and taking that feedback. And I've just gone forward for that. And recently in June, I decided it was enough for high-end and came over to Vari Lite, and I really love it here. And for getting into this business in a manufacturer's role, I never really would have thought that that would be the way I would go. I was really entrenched in the theater markets and really enjoying that. And it just kind of fell in my lap, and I've really enjoyed it because it's different. I still get to do some shows. I still go out and program a few shows a year. But being able to be on the other side of it and help design new products and bring products to everyone in the industry is really exciting and different than I could have ever imagined. And as far as getting into it, if you really want to go that route, a great thing to do is go to a manufacturer and see what jobs they have available. I've seen many people increase and grow over the years and within the companies, maybe start on the assembly line and then they move up to all types of positions. So there's a great range of things you can do working for a manufacturer.
All right, Terry, let's hear some Canada stories.
Well, they needed these igloos lit up, and who better, I guess. I sort of tripped into it, and I thought, wow, I get paid to sort of, a bunch of girls were coming up to me and chasing me around for a change. I thought, this is great, sign me up. They were just trying to get to the band through me, but I didn't care. And I just found an affinity for it. I really liked it because it wasn't the same job every day. I got to travel and see the country first, and that there was more outside of Canada and there wasn't snow 8 months out of the year, which was great. We started coming down here, and it just sort of took off from there. And like Bob said, I mean, when I started, it was a long time ago. There was no such thing as a moving light. There was a KISS tribute band, however, where a guy made moving lights out of windshield washer motors, which was badass back in '85 or '86. And then, as moving lights came out with the IntelliBeam chiplet controllers back in those days, and you had really good fingers to be able to do some smooth stuff with those babies. Getting into a technical college, going from there, getting some design chops down from there, and sort of moving up the ladder, and then, just going into the younger generations and how they want to get into it now. Like Brad said, I think manufacturing is a good way. A shop such as this, a small community theater. Once you get to a certain level, I don't know if people have done it before, but cruise ships are also a great way to get in and get the chops, because most of those are equipped with pretty decent grids on them, and you learn how to program and service and design all at the same time. And it's kind of a college dorm situation too, so it's fun for younger crowd. So
one thing I'll say for people getting started, that I've seen one trait that anyone who's successful in this business has passion for this business. And if you don't have that passion, I would say if you don't have it in your blood, you're not going to go far in this business. A lot of people come in and they think, oh, cool, I can go on a rock tour, or I can meet famous people, or whatever it is. I can be the best programmer ever. I've learned all the keystrokes. I'm ready. And they don't really have the passion. They just want that quick fix of getting the notoriety of doing something amazing in entertainment. But those that have the passion and the drive, those are the ones that succeed. Usually you can pick them out.
All right, I'm going to change gears drastically, really, and start with Brad from the initial manufacturing of the equipment. We're trying to sell this stuff or have dealers buy it, whatever you want to call it. You're competing against other manufacturers that may not be as good or are not as good, and their price point is less than yours. How do you guys talk to that quality versus price issue when it pertains to selling your equipment to dealers?
Well, usually the quality of the price works itself out when you point out that that product doesn't have a brand legacy, the cheaper, newer product, if you will. Usually people say, yeah, you're right. I don't really know the history behind that, and they haven't made a lot before, particularly like the Chinese type products that are out there. And I'm not being racist. They come from China. The products. But basically, you just basically show that your product is more stable and more thought out and has a longer longevity of history with the brand.
You're dealing with your clients, maybe they don't even understand the whole lighting designer concept. They think they should just be able to get equipment and the design comes along with it, or they're not really buying your price. How do you talk to them about the quality of design you're providing versus the price?
I think it's important to put a high value on yourself or myself. I try really hard to make people pay a little bit more than they're comfortable with, no matter what that amount is. I'm not saying that I'm super high priced. I'm saying that I push them to invest in my success. Meaning, if they can hire me and they've got to have a discussion about it, and they've got to cheat the budget in order to bring me on board, or they can hire somebody else for half that. And I guarantee you that the moment the show starts to get a little rough, in my situation, when I've made them invest in it, they're all going to work for success and back me up and get the tools that we need in order to get it done. Whereas the kid that's giving it away for half is going to get thrown under the bus so fast that he's almost guaranteed his failure in that kind of situation. It's a hard line to toe, but it's really worth investing the effort in trying to get that done.
Terry, I know this isn't necessarily your cup of tea because it's more sales, but we've had discussions and all that. So how do we talk about this quality versus price as pertains to working with lighting designers as well as producers and end users?
As far as the sales guys are concerned, if anybody's calling for that, the cheaper end gear, I hope they're just hanging up. But again, it goes back to our clientele and working with an esteemed clients such as Bob that are demanding, a fixture with a history, a line with a history such as Vari Lite. It comes part and parcel really. What the designer and what the client's asking for is quality product. We pride ourselves on providing that quality product, and like Bob said, we're probably going to push the envelope as far as price is concerned. But when they get out onto the show, it's going to work. It doesn't have that failure rate that probably the cheaper fixture is going to have. And when you come down to the money shot or a cue that is really a make or break, we rely on that kind of quality to make sure that it comes off and we have success. Makes us look good, makes our clients look good, and it's kudos to companies like that.
We're going to wrap it up in a couple minutes. I just got one more question. I'm sorry, I've actually been had my back turned. Anybody have any questions right now? All right. What I want to talk about, I guess, is the future of lighting, and I'll start with Bob over here. What do you see as the next development in lighting and the most important aspects of lighting moving forward in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
I think that there's been an overreach with video. I think that we're oversaturated with it, and that now there's been so much exposure of it that people are starting to realize that content really matters much more than how many surfaces you have. And I think that there's a resurgence in use of drama and lighting in many of the projects that I'm on that have been displaced by video screens. Maybe that's old school wishful thinking, but I kind of see a resurgence of the lighting craft showing up a little bit now.
Brad, you guys obviously got tons of different product lines. What are you guys working on, or where do you see things going? I guess probably more from a technology angle and what you guys are working on.
Well, the key thing right now is to make lights that are smaller and brighter and faster and quieter. That's the key thing that is common between designers and rental houses and installations and all. That seems to be what everybody really, really wants. And so we're working on things in that direction. And the other direction that the industry is following, of course, is the LEDs. LEDs we've seen in many, many uses in wash lights, Just now getting to where hard edge is something that is to be looked at. But there's still a lot of hurdles to get over in LED. There's a lot of the color rendering, different ways of color mixing with RGBW that presents different problems. There's a lot of different things that are coming, I think, in that range that for right now kind of the same overreaching of video. I think there's been a lot of overreaching of LEDs. Everybody just hurrying up to build the same things. For example, you can find 100 different brands of LED pizza lights where they're just circles of LEDs. They're all over the place, and there's every type you can imagine, but they all look the same and they all do the same thing and have pretty much the same output. There's not a whole lot of innovation there. And what we want to do is we want to continue the innovation of Vari Lite, of coming out with new technology, new ideas that are different from what has been out there that lead the technology as opposed to following it. So you'll be seeing some of that hopefully in the next year or so.
You want to disclose any company secret right now?
But let me look to the internet camera and say no. One other thing, though, on your question that you asked Bob about in the next 3 to 5 years, one thing I've noticed is there seems to be a really solid trend of every 3 years, there's something new in this industry, a gag almost, that takes off, and everybody wants to use it on all their shows. We all know what that is right now. That's the Sharpie. And before that, it was the J-Rax. And before that, it was Synchrolights or Versatubes. Or, you can keep going back and finding these things that suddenly they're on everybody's show till the point where everybody says, enough of these Sharpies, enough of this J-Rax, enough whatever it is, and they look for the next exciting toy for 3 years. And I think that cycle will continue on products like that. But then there's always the main bread and butter lights that are really important. And I think that's what's more important to work on. Things like the VL3000 type range of light. It gives you the type of things you need to actually light a show and create that drama, not just the fun gags. So you see more of that from us as well.
Terry, building off of what both Brad and Bob said, we almost have to respond to people like Bob more so than creating a path. But what do you see becoming popular?
Well, like Bob said, I think that we've just been hit so hard with the massive influx of all these different technologies, and a lot of lighting designers are trying to cram as much as they possibly can onto the show, and it does sort of, you lose the design effect after a while because there's just so much stuff. It doesn't even matter where you point a light anymore. Really, there's no creativity. So what I like to see is a light that allows you to be creative in that, not because it's necessarily multifunctional, but it does what it does really well. Playing off what you said as far as the Sharpie is concerned, I think there probably is a little bit of truth to that, but it does what it does really well. And I think that sort of fixture, take the name brand out of it, is probably got a life for a little bit, for quite a while. I think it'll become more of a mainstay, much like the fixtures that are here, which is kind of the bread and butter. I see moving forward being able to hone that LED source. Like Brad said, again, make that more of a hard edge type of fixture. Use the energy saving that you get with it, but be able to have that sort of pinpoint source that maybe something like that, low wattage, high energy light can give you, but going into more of an LED technology. So it's energy efficient, it's super quiet, it runs really cool, and it's really fast. So we're getting there every year. We get closer and closer to being able to come up with that different range of all these lights that allow you to be very creative without getting smashed in the face with 1,000 different kinds of products on one show.
I know I said that was my last question, but in terms of energy efficiency, green technology, LED, and all that stuff, Bob, when you're working with your clients, how much do they really care about that, or do they just want the look?
I think that they want the look, but you try to put that on the planet and say, hey, all this is LED over here. We're using a lot less power and being greener about things. You try to do it, but I don't think it's a demand.
When your clients, when they're looking at that energy efficiency, are they actually putting together, venue power charges, versus maybe a little bit higher equipment rental cost?
I think in terms of venues and installation, it's a massive issue. Not that it's what's back what I said, but to go in and refit a theater, like Chicago Theater, with all ILC, they're going to make that money up right away. In an installation, long-term use situation, it's very.
Not so much at like a production while
Not really.
no. Okay, Brett, thoughts on that whole line about energy efficiency? Obviously, installation savings over time and all that. I guess more so production, but just looking for a little bit there. Do you hear any of that rumbling from producers and users, rental shops?
A little bit. What we hear more, I mean, everybody, is kind of realized now that if you cram a light full of LEDs, it's not really that efficient. It's efficient, more efficient than a 15-hour lamp, but it's not super efficient. But I think the key thing that people are realizing is there's less moving parts. If you have an LED wash light, there's no moving color flags, no glass debris. It's a much better product from that standpoint. And I think that combined with the savings of having to take someone up to go up and change a lamp, that's where people find the bigger cost savings.
How much does that help us out? LED versus conventional.
Yeah, I mean, it lessens the amount of stock we have to have on hand to replace lamps, obviously. Again, when that fixture goes out and travels, that's one less thing you need to worry about, hopefully. So obviously it's going to play a big factor into the amount of service time that we're putting into a certain fixture on the road. Going back to the VLX too, I mean, just the amount of, going off of that a little bit, but the amount of saturation that you can get into really deep, rich colors in a LED versus putting, flag after flag in front of a gas holder or tungsten fixture or something like that, that really start to lose the output of it. So sorry to step on your toes, Bob, but from a design standpoint, I think that's a huge bonus as well.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Does anybody have any questions? All right, piece of cake. All right, thanks to our panel. Peterson, Terry Heisler, I also want to thank our partners that make all this possible. Not all this stuff is ours. So Vari Lite, Phillips Vari Lite definitely helped out Charlie Hill. Central Regional Sales Manager is right there. Thank you, Charlie. And we also have Todd Pinter, Midwest Regional Sales Manager from Phillips Strain Silicon, and he is right back there as well. So we're going to open this up, have 2 demos, grab some more food and drink. And around 7:30, we're going to do a raffle for some special Vari Lite swag. We got some